With the permission of the chairman, may I recognize the Executive Governor of Enugu State, His Excellency Dr. Peter Mba, ably represented by Dr. Felix Nnaman, the Honorable Commissioner for Water Resources, Enugu State of Nigeria. Please, may we put our hands together for him. We also recognize Professor and Mrs. Anthony Ejiofor, the Chairman Emeritus, World Igbo Congress, United States of America, here present. We welcome you. We also welcome Professor Rob Egwato, former Deputy Vice Chancellor of our great university here present. We thank you. We will always recognize and, of course, honor you, sir. You are welcome. Your Excellencies, Your Royal Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to welcome us once more to this great occasion, marking the maiden edition of His Royal Majesty Igwe Alfred Nnaemeka Achebe Lecture of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Oka, holding today at the ASU Secretariat, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Oka. We want to get into the program proper by inviting the organizers of this great occasion to officially present the kola nut. And we all know what the kola nut stands for. It is a symbol of welcome, symbol of good heart, symbol of conviviality. May I invite Professor Godwin Onu and his team to officially present the kola nut to the acting Vice Chancellor of our great university, Professor Joseph Ikechebelu, who will in turn present the kola nut to our guests. Professor Godwin Onu, MNI.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, on behalf of Committee on OBI NNAEMEKA ACHEBE Annual Lecture on Igbo Repository, I present this kola nut to you to direct further, sir.
Thank you so much, the chairman of the organizing team. I will proceed immediately and Manauda Januzukwa Bekeo. Makan also me na Beke when adaziku adanka oda. Kan we bulusi oji anu wakita. We bunyekwa nnukwu nna anyị nke no ebe anu a. O yobi ofonicha abu ogidi. Ko we sisie nye ozi ndị ọzọ a ga-ezizie.
Vice Chancellor, Dalo Noji Asawa Oji Abia, Excellency Oji Abia, Your Excellency Oji Abia, Ezuzu Inazukuya, as Noji Zegana Keze, Olwada, Kado Enoso.
Dubai unu ga-adụ chano. Iwe oge eluru abụọkwa n'ụsa. Iwe bụ ụsa iwe eluru eru. Oge ya fụtawa. Ashị m ka m were aba Chukwu nke amụrụ na Krismas. Na aba ezigbo mmadụ niile nọ ike a bịara ibe tadị bata na ana ọka ka eme emume nwa. Ọ ga-adịrị unu mma o. Wee na-achị o. Onye ọbụla chi na biya fụta ka ọ bịa mee omenala. Mere ajiwe. Onye mere ajiwe bụ onye na-eme iwe abụrụ omenala. Anyị ga-adụcha n'o. Oge adịrọzi. Anyị taa ọjị nụwa. Tata ndụ na-arụ ike. Tata enwe tọta iwe keke. N'aba Jesus Christ onye nwe anyị.
Biko Tony Ezozo. Thank you.
Ọjị gbalụdụ ịnọ. Ọ bụrụ iwe ọbụbụ. Ọ Chukwu mee ka ọ gbaa ịnọ. Ya na anyị ga-anọ nọ. Ma niile bịara ike a, ọ ga-adịrị unu mma o.
Thank you, Oji Kanayeka. Ọ ka na-eje ije dịka etu ndị Igbo si eme ya. Asị ka echelu ndị igwe niile ọjị dịka etu omenala si wee dị. Ugwu bụ nkwanye. This is a solemn moment in Igbo tradition. Thank you. Thank you. Iki Yanata. Aha. Ganatawa. Ewe uche me ewe wike na n'oge. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. May I quickly recognize Professor Ken Wogu, Director of Special Projects, and of course the representative of the United Bank for Africa, Nonso Chinwuko, we welcome you. So if you have the brochure, you can go to page 1, where we have the program proper, so that we'll be well guided. And may I inform us that this program is being streamed live on various platforms, various online pedestals, various online pages. So it's a global event, and we have thousands of people that's already with us from across the world. We thank the members of the crew for that. In a special way, the director of Unizik FM, Professor Ifi Dunu. We salute you. Thank you very much for that. Your Excellencies, Your Royal Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to respectfully invite the chairman of today's occasion, a great man, a great leader, as I said, Abinishio, a governor with a difference. His Excellency, Dr.-elect Choma Oti, OFR, the Executive Governor of Abia State, ably represented today by His Excellency, Engineer Ikechukwu Emetu, FNSE, the Deputy Governor of Abia State, to please come forward for the chairman's opening remarks. Mr. Chairman, sir.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, the Executive Governor of Anambra State, His Excellency Dr. Peter Mba, the Executive Governor of Enugu State, ably represented by Dr. Felix Namani, the Honorable Commissioner for Water Resources, Enugu State. You're welcome. His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, ably represented by Professor Chinyere, the Acting Vice Chancellor of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Oka, Professor Joseph Ikechebelo. Your Royal Highnesses here present, please permit me to use OBI NNAEMEKA ACHEBE, the OBI of Onitsha, to reach you all, my royal fathers. And not forgetting the Eze, Uzoka, Kingdom, present, ladies and gentlemen, and not forgetting our members of the press,
for those who were not properly origin and place in Igbo culture, highlighting its importance in exploring a key aspect of Igbo history and heritage. It is with great honor and privilege that I welcome you all to the maiden edition of the OBI NNAEMEKA Achebe Annual Public Series. The discussions of this historic gathering today will illuminate the journey of the Onitsha people and the undying spirit of the Igbo people. Today's gathering provides an opportunity to enhance our understanding of the Onitsha Kingdom, its traditions, beliefs, and our societal organization. We aim to explore the complexities of Onitsha culture and its enduring ties to the broader Igbo community through discussions and deliberations. Onitsha is not just a kingdom, it is a custodian of Igbo traditions and values. The kingdom has produced thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators who continue to shape the narrative of the Igbo nation and Nigeria as a whole. It is crucial to document and celebrate our heritage, as understanding the Onitsha Kingdom's historical and cultural significance can guide the Igbo people in embracing progress while maintaining their roots. I urge you all, participants, to actively engage in discussions and approach this topic with open minds to enhance our collective understanding of Igbo culture and history. I will not fail to appreciate the acting Vice Chancellor of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Professor Joseph Ikechebelo, and the organizing committee for their vision and dedication to highlighting an important theme which is apt and timely. I am very confident that this event will enhance our understanding of the kingdom itself and also inspire a celebration of the Igbo heritage. I wish you fruitful discussions, and I hope that this occasion will significantly contribute to the appreciation and preservation of our Igbo culture. By the power given to me by my royal fathers here, and also the executive governor of Abia State, who happens to be the chairman of this very occasion, I hereby declare this event open. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Please, another round of applause for His Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency. And thank you, the Deputy Governor, as well, for representing very, very well. Thank you. Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I respectfully invite the chairman of the local organizing committee, Professor Godwin Onu, MNI. Godwin Onu, PhD, served as the rector of the Federal Polytechnic Oko, Anambra State of Nigeria, former dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, a man that has served this university and the globe at large in various capacities. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Godwin Onu, MNI.
Your Excellency, Dr. Alex Oti, Governor of Abia State, and the Chairman of Maiden Edition of OBI NNAEMEKA ACHEBE Lecture on Igbo Repository, ably represented by Engineer Ikechukwu Emetu, the Deputy Governor of Abia State. Distinguished governors, the former governor of Anambra State, Mr. Peter Obi, ably represented by Professor Stella Okonna, former Commissioner for Education in Anambra State. The Governor of Enugu State, Mr. Peter Mba, ably represented too by Dr. Felix Nnamani, Commissioner for Water Resources, Enugu State. The Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Joseph Ike Achebe. The principal officers of the university, distinguished members of the University Senate, deans of faculty, heads of department, directors and coordinators of program, the chairman and executive members of Academic Staff Union of universities, members of non-teaching staff unions, honorable guests, representatives of the Zenith Bank and Fidelity Banks, our distinguished lost temporal and spiritual, the royal father of the day, the governor of Anambra State is not here. We're still expecting. Will be Professor Epiphany Chibog Azinge, SAN, the host royal father, Obi Gibson Wosu, Ezozu, Oka. Senator Hope Ozodema is not able to make it. And Dr. Francis Obonianwifru, we are still expecting him to arrive. The Zenith Bank called me this morning that they are sending their representatives. Distinguished senior professors and colleagues that cannot mention everybody here. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to this great event, including the members of the fourth asset of the RIM, the Nzenozo Society and SUG government. It is with immense pleasure and honor that we welcome you all to OBI NNAEMEKA ACHEBE Maiden Annual Public Lecture on Igbo Repository at this esteemed Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. When this proposal was presented to the 222nd Senate of the university, it was hotly debated and approved with ovation during the 223rd Senate, and subsequently endorsed by the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Charles Esimone, the acting Vice Chancellors, Professor Carol Umobi, and Professor Joseph Ike Achebe, subsequently upheld this program as a worthy project. We commend all of them for the permission to honor this institution of a man His Royal Majesty OBI NNAEMEKA ACHEBE, CFR, MNI, the 21st OB of Onitsha, and a man of remarkable achievements, both corporate and traditional spheres. OBI Achebe's commitment to education, national development, and cultural preservation serves as a shining example to us all, and we are privileged to celebrate this significant milestone with him as we embark on preserving the legacy of Igbo community. This lecture series, named after His Royal Majesty, will be rotated among our targeted historical communities. Next year, we shall be looking at the arrows, wherever they exist, the long juju, and all about the Arrow Kingdom. Someone from Arrow Kingdom will do the presentation, and the arrows worldwide, the historical connect across the world, the ingenuity and cultural preservation of the arrows. In subsequent years, we shall step into the states such as Ebonyi, Imo, Rivers, Enugu, Abia, Kogi, Benue, Bayelsa, wherever Ndi Igbo exist. We are going to touch there. When we go around the Igbo resident states, we come back to where we started to pick historical communities and bring them on to the map. We were told that one of the gates at Buckingham Palace was built by an Oka man. And there are many forts that Ndi Igbo has scored in this world. We are pleased to have laid the foundation for the Doom. I think we are going to do that after this lecture, which is the ensemble in consummation of these ideas that make us Ndi Igbo. We are aware that something is happening in Enugu State. Without being unmindful of many other Igbo centers in many other universities across the nation and other parts of the world. Someone is here representing the Igbo Congress in the United States. Please, I want him to stand up for recognition. He came down from the United States. Please, can he come up to the high table and have a seat? We shall reach out to them for collaboration, including the World Igbo Congress in the United States. The foundation laying ceremony for the OBI Achebe World Center for Igbo Repository, which will be done today, signifies a tribute to the rich history and heritage of the Igbo people. The repository, which will be a touchstone of knowledge, preservation, which preserve the unique cultural tapestry and traditions of the Igbo people for generations to come. The center will feature digital AI library, a hall of fame showcasing Igbo excellence, and a multifunctional hall for academic and cultural events and engagements. It will also capture all the publications in Igbo language from Azun to the ones we have today. We are losing our history, and we want to reinvent them and bring them into what we call cultural renaissance. It will also capture publications. It will have a hall of fame where short profiles of Igbos who have carved a niche for themselves will be captured for posterity. Moreover, the center will symbolize a unique tourism hub connecting global Igbo communities and fostering vibrant cultural exchange, encapsulating the essence of Igbo culture through its immersive environment. This initiative will further capture our history, imaginary comments, folk tales on the history and origin of the Igbo nation. It also designed to capture the Igbo-ness among the Igbos, identify what makes us Igbo people in industry, in education, in governance, in religion and culture, the origin of Igbos wherever they exist in Anambra, Imo, Abia, Enugu, Delta, Rivers, Bayelsa, Kogi, Benue, and identify our meeting points and uniqueness. It will address the question, why are we called Igbos? In all these places, the initiative will interrogate the contestations on we versus them, arts and artifacts, monuments and findings, as well as our creative ingenuity wherever we exist, and in all these places we have come first in creation and industry. Why is it that in any place in the world where there is no Igbo man, Asonya Awana? We need to answer that question. And the center will be positioned to answer it. The Dome will also be for seminars and conferences and will be equipped with all digital high-speed internet with dedicated online streaming facilities. Anyone carrying out research on Igbo will have enough materials in the center with its empirical dimensions. It will be fully air-conditioned with solar systems as well as standby generators. A wing will be adorned with archaeological findings from Igbo land, traditional ways of life, including dresses from the days of yore to the present, our food, our language, with full commitments of our cultural uniqueness. The environment will capture our traditional plants that give us food, medicine, and fragrance. To materialize this monumental endeavor, we humbly seek your esteemed support in funding the construction of the World Center for Igbo Repository, and sustainable organization of the OBI Achebe Annual Public Lecture. Your endorsement will pay tribute to OBI Achebe's legacy and elevate the university's academic prestige and cultural significance. Recognizing donor contributions plays a pivotal role in preserving and honoring Igbo heritage, ensuring benefactors are permanently acknowledged within the Hall of Fame. We eagerly anticipate favorable response and sincerely appreciate your contemplation of this request. Your participation and support will greatly enrich this historic occasion as we unite to honor OBI Achebe and the enduring essence of Igbo culture and history. Thank you for gracing us with your presence and unwavering support. Professor Godwin Onu, MNI. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Godwin Onu, MNI, former Provost, Federal Polytechnic, Oko. We salute you, sir. We salute you. We want to take the Vice Chancellor's address. And on this note, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to you the Acting Vice Chancellor of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. He is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, a fertility expert and gynecological surgeon. Thank you.
Professor Ike Achebe, Ifeanyi Chukwu, Jodulani Gaba, Ani Fuginazu, Ani Fulinanya, a Vice Chancellor, Jogari. One more time. Akachukwu Nebile, Professor Ike Achebe, Professor Joseph, Ifeanyi Chukwu, Jodulani Gaba, Ani Fuginazu, Ani Fulinanya, a Vice Chancellor, Jogari.
And thank you so much. The voice you've just heard is the voice of our music group. So these are students of Nnamdi Azikiwe University from our music department. And I want to appreciate you also. The chairman of the occasion, the executive governor of Abia State, ably represented by the Deputy Governor, Engineer Emeto Lekwa, the other governors, executive governors here present, His Royal Majesty, the Obi of Onitsha, Abogidi, His Royal Majesty, the Asaba of Asaba, and His Royal Majesty, the Ezuzu, the second, Obi Gibson Wosu of Oka Kingdom, and by extension, all the Royal Majesties here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the press, welcome to Nnamdi Azikiwe University. I'm much excited with this epoch-making event, which is the foundation-laying ceremony of the World Center for Igbo Repository in Nnamdi Azikiwe University, and the maiden edition of His Royal Highness OBI NNAEMEKA Achebe Annual Lecture Series with a topic on a traditional society, origin, spread, and culture. The guest speaker is no less a person than the Obi of Onitsha himself. And we are today gathered here to drink from his wealth of knowledge. I will respectfully welcome our distinguished personalities for this auspicious event. The chief hosts, the Executive Governor of Anambra State, His Excellency, Professor Chukwuma C. Soludo, CFR. The chairman of this occasion, His Excellency, Dr. Lex Oti, ably represented. And the special guest of honor, His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, is the former governor of Anambra State, who is also ably represented here by our own Professor Chinyere Okonna, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Paul University. His Excellency, Dr. Peter Mba, the Executive Governor of Enugu State, also ably represented, and all the other dignitaries. The Royal Father of the Day, His Royal Highness Obi Gibson Wosu, OON the Ezuzu II, and His Royal the host Royal Father, and also the Asaba of Asaba, Professor Epiphany Azinge. We may now ask, why the need for a world center for Igbo repository? We also remember that the UNESCO 2012 report had predicted that Igbo language will become extinct by the year 2025 if nothing was done to arrest the creeping decline in the usage of Igbo language. This will not be surprising to us, the Igbo people. For in the upper class, the middle class families, they extended, and even extending to the so-called lower classes in the urban and semi-urban communities, English language is becoming the mother tongue. The first language spoken to children from birth. In many cases, only grudgingly do they thereafter learn the Igbo language as a second language. While the 2012 UNESCO report adverted attention to the Igbo language, it is to be noted that the language is only an aspect, important as it is, of the Igbo culture. Other aspects of our Igbo culture will include the values, our beliefs, our arts, the literature, the symbols, the customs, the traditions, and even our architecture. They are all subtly being eroded by the onslaught of globalization and modernization, driven by the digital technology. Almost in all societies now, they will have computers in their own language. But we are yet to have a computer in Igbo language. See, that is why the digital technology is fast eluding us. Under this situation, there is a strong need for concerted efforts to save the history of Igbo and the culture from going into perdition. This has necessitated the creation of a central hub, digital, physical, or hybrid, where data, information, and other resources on the Igbo people and their culture are stored, managed, and made accessible. We may add here that the scant attention to the Igbo people of Nigeria, their history and their culture, dates back even to the colonial times and the early years of post-independent Nigeria. We recall that in the years when the history was still being taught in Nigerian secondary schools, West African history included the history of the Oyo Empire, of the Yorubas, the Benin Kingdom, of the Bini people, the Hausa Bakwai, states of the Hausa Fulani. Little or nothing was taught about the Igbos, except the mention of a few individual personalities, like the Kinjaja of Opobo. And this is in relation to the trading activities of the European merchants, like the Royal Niger Kingdom. We must therefore give credit to scholars, many of Igbo extraction, who subsequently took up the challenge of researching into the history and culture of the Igbos. Renowned among them, Professor Kenedike, Professor Adiele Afibo, Professor Iken Nanzimiro, M.O. Onweje Jogu, Elizabeth Isichie, and of course, so many others that I may not have the opportunity to mention here. The foregoing is the rationale for the establishment of the World Center for Igbo Repository in Nnamdi Azikiwe University. This center will make for the improved collection, organization, and accessibility of information on the Igbos at home and in diaspora, provide version control, facilitate collaboration, and today we have somebody all the way from the world, Igbo from the United States, and sharing of resources, as well as enhance efficient research and retrieval of information. It is expected that the center will also encourage research and dissemination of information on the Igbo people through various platforms, lectures, festivals, workshops, and others. Contemporaneously, with the foundation ceremony of this center, what would have given future serious considerations is the very important matter of funding to ensure that the center and the various platforms that may emerge within function continuously, much like our ZIG's annual lecture series. I will therefore, as the Vice Chancellor, passionately appeal to you as an individual and as a corporate body for a perpetual endowment to the development of this World Center on Igbo Repository. I commend the efforts of those who came up with the idea of this His Royal Majesty Obi Alfred NNAEMEKA ACHEBE annual lecture series. It is an uncommon good augury that he in whose honor a lecture series is founded and named is the same guest speaker today at the median edition of this series. And I've said the topic on a traditional society, origin, spread, and culture is an apt topic. Who are the Onitsha people? Are they of Bini, Yoruba, Igala, or are they of autochthonous origin? This matter had in the past been of great speculation and controversies, sometimes bordering on of acrimonious discussions. Today, if you listen very well, there is no other person than the Obi of Onitsha himself, backed by the authority of the Obi stool on which he sits, will speak to us on a matter further extending and clarifying the history of the Onitsha people and their neighbors. I invite you to listen very well and receive knowledge that is very rare. And I want to thank you for listening. And I say, God bless Nnamdi Azikiwe University. God bless His Royal Majesty Obi Alfred NNAEMEKA ACHEBE. God bless the World Igbo Center. And God bless us all. Thank you.
Akachukwu na-eme Prọfesọ Ike Echebelu. Ihe anyị Chukwu jọdụla anyị gaba. Anyị kwụ gị n'azụ, anyị fụrụ n'anya. A Vice Chancellor Joe carry Akachukwu na-eme Prọfesọ Ike Echebelu. Ihe anyị Chukwu jọdụla anyị gaba. Anyị kwụ gị n'azụ, anyị fụrụ n'anya. A Vice Chancellor Joe carry the goal.
Thank you very much. I think we can do better than that. Please, let's put our hands together for him. Thank you, our dear acting Vice Chancellor. Thank you very, very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we want to behold the Ijele, a great man, a man that inspires love and is loved by all. His Royal Majesty, Obi NNAEMEKA ACHEBE Abogidi. But before he comes on stage, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as an Ijele, the others must be on stage first to announce the arrival of the Ijele. That is the tradition of Igbo. On this note, and with your permission, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I respectfully invite Professor Patrick Amechi Ebunike. He is a professor of accountancy in Nnamdi Azikiwe University to please come forward for the citation on this great man, the Prof.
Thank you, my university orator. Let me stand on already established protocol, but with some level of emphasis on some comments on recognition of the 14th Asaba of Asaba. Obi Professor Chibogo Azinge. SAN, a distinguished lawyer and Director General of Nigerian Institute for Legal Studies. It is with that I therefore formally and duly present my citation on the great celebrant, the sage, and the legend who had inspired many. It is therefore with great honor and admiration that we recognize and celebrate the exceptional life and achievements of His Royal Majesty Igwe Nnemeka Alfred Achebe, the 21st OBI of our nature. His Royal Majesty Nnemeka Alfred Achebe Abogidi is an enigma. Is an enigma. Is a study in contrast. His conundrum. His cryptic personality. His Semitic and esoteric. Here is a man of a humble birth, taught from the cradle to walk with the lonely and toil for a living. Yet he rose to the dizzy heights of royalty, majesty, and splendor. The stuff of which dreams and legends are made. Trained as a scientist and schooled in the best traditions of Western scholarship and erudition, he now holds the traditional specter of authority in service to his people in the backwash of rural urban Nigeria. Obeyed, elegant, and stately in carriage, in comport and comportment, he dares to build a bridge between an ancient past and complete with traditional law and values, and the emerging realities of a new century and a new millennium. He has become the custodian of the ancient tradition of Onitsha Adonidu. Yet, he holds with tenacious ease to the religion and conviction of modern-day Nigeria and Africa. An accomplished corporate manager and a boardroom strategist, he combines the imperatives of the monarchy with an abiding faith in democratic ethos and values. Very mild, soft, and occasionally distant and aloof. He has stood with his people in a close embrace that idolates in the past glory, defines the challenge of the present, and envisions the goal of the future. That is the man, the royal personage, a quintessential leader, a trailblazer, a man of culture and sophistication. OBI NNAEMEKA ACHEBE. Obi was born on the 14th of May, 1941. He attended the secondary school, government secondary school, Owerri, and holds a bachelor degree in chemistry from Stanford University, California, and a master's degree in business administration from Columbia University, New York. In 1979, he attended a maiden high-level leadership course at the Nigerian Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, Jos. He attended other leadership and management development programs in USA, in UK, France.
Ojinaka,
Sir.
because
No, you don't. No, I go on.
please, the profile should not be longer than the lecture itself.
Okay. Okay, let me summarize.
Everybody has a copy of the program. So summarize.
Let me very briefly
Dalo.
summarize. You have a lot. That is the problem. These ones are abridged. They are abridged. They are abridged citations. Otherwise, talking about him will take us the whole day. Well, apart from a state corporate executive in US, OBI Achebe in 1972 began a long career with Shell Development Company of Nigeria, which he held a broad range of senior and strategic positions. He retired in 1976 and was deployed to the Royal Dutch Shell Group head office in London, where he served as a senior corporate advisor and director of several companies in UK, Netherlands, Anglophone, West Africa. He was in this position until his ascension to the throne of Obi of Onitsha in 2002. Obi has served as a board chairman of too many corporate organizations, and currently, just briefly to emphasis, okay, he is the chairman of International Breweries Chimedie Trust Foundations, okay. Obi has a strong passion for education. This is very, very necessary and a matter of emphasis and development factors in the. Finally, let me abridge the entire thing. Finally, his legacies, which span across traditional leadership, corporate excellence, philanthropic service, education, social and international relations, will continue to inspire generations to come. Thank you.
Ifuzie mi kpọnụ m onye Igbo maka na abụ m onye Igbo ife mme Igbo amaka Igbo amaka.
We therefore very humbly and most respectively invite the great Awogede. Thank you.
Ifuzie mi kpọnụ m onye Igbo maka na abụ m onye Igbo ife mme
Igbo amaka Igbo amaka.
Enta dey call me onye Igbo maka na abụ m onye Igbo ife mme
Igbo amaka Igbo amaka.
I don't know. Ojinaka, where is Obi? He's my cousin. He's my cousin, so I think he got very emotional. But I'm sure we understand. The chairman of the occasion, the governor of Abia State, Dr. Alex Oti, who is my own son, were represented here by his deputy governor. I say no. He couldn't be here today because the Abia airport project is being flagged off today. And he had to be home. Otherwise, he would have been here. Enugu State Governor is very well represented here. And besides the governor, Enugu State is again solidly well represented here. The chairman of Enugu State Council of Traditional Rulers, Igwe Sadu, is here. Igwe Bonye Nsukka, and Nsukka will feature in our lecture today. And we shall find out why Nnamdi Azikiwe, in his wisdom, decided to establish the first modern tertiary education institution in Nigeria, because Ibadan was set up by the colonials. So Nsukka was the first home of the first tertiary education. We shall find out why Nnamdi did that. So you go know. And the two patrons of Enugu State Council of Traditional Rulers are here also. Asaba, Anambra saying no, Onitsha saying no. This may be your first public outing, and it was deliberate to make it so. So thank you for coming. No, the Olinzelen and the Chilechichi na Asaba. No. Have you worked? Madno kwe. Aha. There's a number of question as eno. The Onitsha neba. One question as eno. I'll stand by the established protocol. Your Vice Chancellor, we're in your hands today. You said before that there have been 3 Vice Chancellors in 4 months. Actually, there have been 4 Vice Chancellors in 4 months. Because we're counting you 2 times. But Osita Dema, Unizik will continue to rise and rise and rise. Prof, World Igbo Congress, joint body, and so on. Thanks for coming. All the way from Tennessee in America. Today, normally speaking, but today I think I feel intimidated by the presence today. And I'm a go Sinade. We shall get on with it. It's a maiden lecture on a series of Igbo repository. Being a maiden lecture, I run the risk that I may set a bad tone. Whatever happens, I'll do my best. And of course, being a maiden lecture also, I'll probably raise more questions than answers. And the Vice Chancellor in his comment asked the question, what is Onitsha? Or whatever it is. We will not get the answer today, but to make some progress. I will express appreciation to the immediate past Vice Chancellor, Professor Charles Simone, who blessed this program. Of course, the acting Vice Chancellor here, and his immediate past acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Carol Arinze Umobi. Then, of course, Professor Godwin On. Where is he? You got me into this trouble, didn't you? He's a migrant, migrating from Unizik to Oko Polytechnic, back to Unizik, to Paul University. And migration will feature a lot in our lecture today. Thank you to you and your working group, and so on. The concept of the lecture is to explore and uplift Igbo culture, to explore the historical background of Ndi Igbo, to make Unizik a repository of Igbo traditions, and then to explore the historical connections between Ndi Igbo with other ethnic nationalities, our neighbors, and even beyond our neighbors. This was set by the working group. And the outline for my presentation today is to start with, the subject of Onitsha. History, culture, and the spread. But you cannot discuss Onitsha meaningfully if you don't start from the beginning, which is the Igbo origin, Igbo history, of which Onitsha is part of it. So we'll go through the hypothesis of Igbo origin, the various hypotheses, go through Onitsha origin and the spread of the Chima dynasty. And then we'll go through the evolution of the city-state from a small group of migrants that arrived across the river to what Onitsha is today. The high point and maybe a lower point, what we have today. And then touch a bit on the cultures and the traditions, and then look at the contemporary challenges that Onitsha has. Okay. And starting with Igbo history of origin, I'll read two quotations. By the way, this is a short presentation. The main lecture is about 61 pages long, including 57 references. So I've taken a short version. But then, the importance of history. Why is history important? As Vice Chancellor was saying, why do we need to know where we come from? I'll read two quotations. One by a novelist, David Lodge. He says that history is the verdict of those who were not there on those who were there. You get the point? How do we know? So we make our best effort at all times to figure out what happened 10,000 years ago and so on. Another quotation says, all histories are, in a sense, visits to foreign places. We cannot actually go there. So you talk about places that you cannot go to. But still, by endeavoring, we get to know more and get to learn more. And again, why history? If you recall, a few months ago, one Professor Bako of, I think, University, Otman Danfodio University, gave his inaugural lecture on the subject of the Igbo factor in the history of intergroup relations and commerce in Kano. And of course, why Professor Edmund Danfodio, in his own inaugural lecture, will talk about Igbos in Kano. And of course, he badly misrepresented the Igbo presence and the history of the Igbos in Kano in the way Anyibundi Igbo will see it. And immediately, Dr. Sam Amadi gave a lecture, like a response to that lecture by Professor Bako. And Sam Amadi said that forgetting is dying. If you forget, if you're Basalongwe, then you are not existing. But self-awareness and other awareness are most important aspects of existence. And he says, when we forget events and their meaning, we expose ourselves to deception by competitors and our enemies. When we forget events and their meanings, we expose ourselves to deceptions by our competitors and our enemies, which is what Dr. Bako has tried to do. He's tried to deceive people about Ndi Igbo. And of course, Sam Amadi rose up to that. More to say on why we must pay attention to our history. Adiele Afibo, our great historian, said, the Igbo people, like any other group of people, are anxious to discover their origin and to reconstruct how they came to be where they are. Why are we here? Why are we not in the Niger Delta or in the desert? And we've been here, we're making our life here. Their experiences under colonialism and since Nigeria's independence have emphasized for them the reality of their group identity they want to anchor into authentic history. So the war has made us realize, or should make us realize, who we are and to value it and hold it very dear. Finally, one more quote, or it's not a quote actually, but it's a narrative. During the war, Second World War, Sir Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of Britain. And he kept saying to the British people on his radio broadcast every evening that the most important reason why Britain must defeat Germany in the Second World War is that it is the winner who lives to write the history. And Britain and America wrote the history of the Second World War. Germany was the bad guy. Of where? Okay. But Germany fought back. Not by writing history, but with technology. So today, the German economy is far bigger and stronger than the British economy. Why we must open our eyes. Colonialism. The colonial people wrote the history of colonialism in Nigeria. And even those things they wrote, we used it to do our exams, our school certificate exams, and so on. Thankfully, there's a new book, it's out for about 3 years now, by Max Suleom. And the title is What Britain Did to Nigeria, the History of Conquest and Rule. It's a counter-history to the colonial history, using the same sources that the colonial people used, from the crown agents, from the colonial office, and digging out information that were hiding there. If the damage that Britain did to Nigeria, particularly Igbo, they took over the north, controlled it, and the west, but they couldn't figure out Igbo. Asaba, Ekumeku, na Nyoma, they couldn't figure it out. Arochukwu, they couldn't figure it out. So they wrote our history, which we have to respond to. That book is very useful, if anybody can get it and read it. And nearer home, the Civil War. Who is writing the history of the Civil War? Orondiozo. Right? Who are the rebels and so on. So, if you don't fight for yourself, your enemies will write your own history the way it suits them, which is very, very important, which is the very reason why the repository, the Igbo repository, becomes very important. Not only UNICEF, because there are other institutions where such efforts are being made. And we have to all work together and stand tall. And what we're going to talk about today will show you compared to Ndiozo. So, the origin of Igbo. There are three broad hypotheses. Okay? The Vice Chancellor mentioned one of them already, the autochthony hypothesis, which says that Chukwu Kalundi Igbo, where we are today, now either Eri or whatever name we call it, Chukwu Zidatalia, I became the father of Ndi Igbo, where we are today. Yorubas have their own equivalent. That's Ududu was in weather. But we know where Ududu came from, and they know where Ududu came from. I will address a bit of that today. So that is one theory about the origin of Ndi Igbo. And the antiquity of Ndi Igbo we tend to support that theory in some way. The second hypothesis is the internal migration hypothesis that says that Ndi Igbo were at some stage, that is thousands of years ago, at the confluence of the Niger and the Benue around Lokoja. And that Ndi Igbo, and the Yoruba, and the Edo, Bini, the Jukun were all one people until the point with discovery of iron and all of that, Esebohu, and then they migrated to where they are today. As a second theory. And people like Richard Henderson, people like Okonkwo, proposed that theory. Then, of course, the external migration theory that says that Ndi Igbo see either Egypt or Israel. I think they say more about Israel. And people like Basden, G.T. Basden, and Bon Eluwa, B-O-N Eluwa, hold that theory, but we shall show with the studies of modern scholarly approach, modern scholarly research, discount this hypothesis, because someone like Catherine Achalon actually has stated with good reason that Ndi Igbo actually predates Egypt and Israel. So you cannot originate from where you predate. Maybe it could be the other way around. So those are the three hypotheses. Now, whatever the hypothesis one believes in, one thing is very clear. The antiquity of Ndi Igbo, established. Now, pottery, earthen pottery, from around 3000 BC, have been excavated at Nsukka in 1970. Earthen pottery. At iron smelting at Nsukka and Afikpo existed, that is, smelted iron had been excavated with carbon testing to be as old as 750 years BC and 2000 years BC. OP 750 and Ledger 2000 BC. And of course, we now know about the Igbo bronze and artifacts which were excavated in our present generation, which dates as far back as to the 9th and 10th century AD. Ife is 12th and 13th century, and Benin is 14th century. So the Igbo artifacts are older than Ife and Benin. So that's why I said earlier on, Nsukka and Afikpo were probably at the beginning of the Iron Age. At the beginning of the Iron Age, from the Stone Age to Iron Age, which is why Nnamdi Azikiwe went back to the foundation of iron technology and set up a university there. Another point about Igbo antiquity. This one will cause controversy. After this lecture, I expect there will be some media reaction. But we've prepared a press release. We should cover what I said as much as possible. Prof, I hope we have the press releases ready now. Okay, thank you very much. In recent times, the Oni of Ife has made statements that Ndi Igbo came from Ile-Ife. Made that statement several times. Ndi Igbo Jeffrey, I know no bofu. No, I couldn't swear. But he didn't say when Ndi Igbo got to Ile-Ife before they left, when the Yorubas left, arrived in Ile-Ife. But it is well established that Ndi Igbo were in Ile-Ife long before the Yorubas arrived there. Established. And the authorities that I'm quoting are more Yoruba than anybody else. Ndi Igbo were there and dominated Ile-Ife. Okay. Today, there's still a village in Ile-Ife, which is the remnants of the Igbos who didn't migrate away. Because the story was that Ndi Igbo were there, dominated Ile-Ife, okay, until the Yorubas came. And then, by cordial relationships and all of that, Ewesebo on who to succeed, Oduduwa, or and so on. Ndi Igbo were claiming it's their rights, the Yorubas, and so on. And Ndi Igbo started attacking the Yoruba elements. When they used masquerades to attack them. The Yorubas thought they were spirits. They were afraid until Moremi offered herself as a slave woman to the Igbo group. And they presented her to the king of Ndi Igbo. That's how she found the secret more, more Abro spirit, and gave the story back to their people. And they defeated Ndi Igbo. Then migration coming back. That is the significance of Moremi in Yoruba history. That's why they call her their heroine, because she saved them and they dominated the whole place. Today, in Ile Odua, which is the palace of the Oni of Ife, the ancient throne of the Igbo king is still there, and it's part of their ceremonies. And they have an annual ceremony which they call the AD ceremony, which marks the defeat of Ndi Igbo and their return home. It's an annual ceremony. There's a scholarly article on that. I'm not talking about them. These are all references that I'm quoting. And of course, Reverend Samuel Johnson, The History of Yoruba People, it's a big volume. Eluwa, Onyibo. Aremu, Ijesakin, and Ademeleya are Yorubas. They wrote this scholarly article on the annual festival. Professor Ade Obayemi, who is one of the top Yoruba historians, and of course, Oba himself. In the disputes between Oni of Ife and Ulubo of Ugbo land, Ife people claim that Moremi is their heroine. Olubo said she's a traitor, that she was one who revealed the secret that led them to get away, and that Ndi Igbo were in Ile Ife before the Yorubas arrived. Oni said, no, Ndi Igbo, IGPO, were there before Yorubas arrived, before Oduduwa arrived. In public, in print, in the newspapers. So what is the difference between Ugbo and Igbo? That's for another discussion, another time. But Ndi Igbo, which is in Okitipupa in Ondo State, are probably part of that Igbo movement that left Ile Ife. Kana Agazi, Ndi Igbo, they stay on their own and so on and so forth. So to summarize on the Igbo history, before we go into Onitsha, it's clear that according to Katin Acholonu, that Ndi Igbo had existed as far back as 11,000 years BC. And that was 7,000 years before the first king of Egypt, who was a black man. So you can figure out where he came from. Secondly, we've talked about Nsukka and Afikpo, and they support the autochthony hypothesis. Then, of course, the internal migration suggests that Igbo, Yoruba, Edo, Jukun, and so on and so forth had an ancestral connection before they broke away. And if they did, why don't you go back and reestablish that connection? Because in Nigeria today, only open and nacho 1 year. So we have to rediscover our connections and build a platform to address our own challenges and so on. So we'll come back to Onitsha. And again, for Onitsha, 9 years Chima features very prominently in the founding of Onitsha, and of course, a whole lot of other communities. On the Enuani and Neoma side, there are probably about 19 communities that claim descent from Chima. On this side, many more. There are four versions of how Onitsha came to exist. Okay, one, from S.I. Bosa, on the history of Onitsha. And the Onitsha were part of, they were Edo people, and then Esebeuku, and they migrated, okay, led by Chima. Okay. Eluwa, who wrote the book Adonidu, claims that Ndi Onitsha were part of that return migration, or that migration of Ndi Igbo when they left Ile Ife. So So they stopped in Benin for several centuries and then continued their migration. The third hypothesis, which comes from Iseluku, there's a book, History of Iseluku Kingdom. Now, Chima was the 5th king of Benin. I'm sorry, the Chima was 5th king of Iseluku. But his father was the 4th, his grandfather was the 3rd, his great-grandfather was the 2nd, and then the 1st king of Iseluku was the son, the 2nd son of OBI NNAEMEKA, the 1st of Benin. Which means that Benin kingdom, Oba sent his son, 2nd son, to go and form a new kingdom as a defense against Igala and Igbo attackers. That is their claim. That's how Iseluku got established. And that Onitsha is the 5th king of direct descent from NNAEMEKA the 1st. Now it gets interesting because NNAEMEKA the 1st is the son of Arameon, who is the son of Oduduwa, established. At least Benin people now claim that very clear since the new Oba came into, come onto the throne. So there are linkages which we need to figure out. That's the point I'm making. And in all of this, Benin features very, very actively. And of course, the 4th migration, Bona actually Aro, because the Aros were itinerant people migrating from one place to the other. Aro medicine man went to Benin, established himself, became a soothsayer to the king. Then there was a disagreement and he came back. Okay. But then, if you go through the history, you'll find that the Chima era existed before we know of the Aro migration. There's an Aro migration westwards and then came back again. So, which of them? There are a whole lot of consequences, in terms of, if you're looking at all these 4 theories. I discount the Aro hypothesis. But S.I. Bosa, Abundi Bini, Eluwa, Abia and Benin are migrated. And then, of course, Iseluku, that's Abundi Seluku, originally, but migrated from Benin. By the way, after Chima reigned, Iseluku went into crisis. Azolo who to replace him, went into crisis, which led to the migration of Oreze coming back to form Onitsha. But then other people from Iseluku went to found other communities, Isela Zaba, Isela Pichima, Onitsha, Olona, etc., etc. Okay. But one thing is constant, that there was a migration from Benin. Okay. So the Oreze group then arrived, got across, and settled down. Okay. So we're looking at Onitsha now. From the time Oreze settled with his people, followed by Chimevi, Obi Chimevi, followed by other kings, up to Aroli. So from Oreze was the beginning of Onitsha, settling down. Aroli took it to the next level, and I look at the 3rd level now when Christianity and colonialism came up to the present time. Now, the components of Onitsha Donidu, which is Onitsha, the components, first of all, is the core group that Chima led up to wherever it was. And Oreze now led them across. And that was Umwezi Chima, comprising of Isiokwe, Olosi, Umwezi Aroli, and Okebunabo. Okay? For Umwezi Chima and Onitsha. The second group, Bundi Bayazo, the migration along the way. It all came up together. It all had their functions. Ugunobamba, Ekenu Bene, and all of that. The 3rd group, Bundi Ekudo Lekudo, Ndi Gala Ekudo Lekudo, on the waterfront, who helped to ferry them across. They now constitute 3 villages, 2 villages, OBI Obotu, and Welekeke. Okay. OBI is also a Gala, but all their father be a Gala that married the daughter of Ezra Raleigh. Then the 4th group, Betazil Onisha. Bundi Sizi Ani Bundi Ozo, Oze particularly, and Oze Noko, Dinawunye, a lot. Ogidi, Ubosi, and all of that. All of us are now integrated into Onitsha, what as we know today, 4 different groups, but into one. That's what we are today. Okay? And then, of course, in that dispersion from Iseluku, I mentioned there were about 19 communities on the western side of the Niger, Enuani, and Anioma, that Bundi, who claimed descent from Chima. And then on the eastern side, well, Abo is also on the western side, but from Onitsha, movement, they went to Guta and founded Guta. And his other brother went to Abo and founded Abo. So all of that constitutes Umweze Chima, as we know today. But there's more. There's more. Because on the eastern side of the Niger, Onitsha, Deputy Governor, are you hearing me? I will Onitsha, Bom. Onitsha Boma, Ititi. Onitsha Mi, Isu Ikwato. They're all in Abia State. Fabo Onitsha. And Ijuafa, those people always see themselves as slightly different from the larger community around them. Ijen Imo State. I'm very familiar with that one. Onichudo, Nambise, and Onishankwere, they're both in Imo State. And Ebonyi State, well, Onisha Hozara, Onisha Eza, and Hozara, well, Onisha Eba. And of course, Enugu State, well, Onisha Agu. Okay? So, that's what I'm trying to say. We are dispersed, all over the place. What are the connections between, with all these Onichas, with the Chima dynasty? These are questions that should be answered. This is why we need this Center for Igbo Repository. So we can do research, we can do more research, and do more inquiries, go on the spot, look at the artifacts, do excavations, and find out the historical connections, and so on and so forth. We need to know. We need to know. There is more. In Yoruba land, in Oyo State, and well, 4 communities that are spelled Onisa, O-N-I-S-A. We know in Yoruba, O-N-I-S-A is called Onisha. So in Oyo State, there are 4 communities. In Oyo, 4 communities. Ogbomoso, 3 communities. Ogun State, 1. Osun State, 1. Are there any connections with Onitsha and Kaimau? Or is it a creation of their own, or whatever it is? We need to inquire. We need to find out how those people got to where they were. Because when Ife broke up, people migrated in different directions. Okay? People migrated in different directions. You see? So it could be that these people went on their own way when the main group was going, but we need to find out. We need to know, which is why research is important. So we fast track then to back to Onitsha itself. Okay? I've talked about the arrival of Oreze as the beginning of the foundation of Onitsha town, Onitsha community, Onitsha Donidu, or Onitsha Mili as we know it today. The next level was Ezra Raleigh, who came from a Gala and brought a Gala royal traditions, which are far more sophisticated, move Onitsha to the next level. And the third, of course, I said, was the arrival of Christianity and colonialism. And both of them arrived in the same vessel in 1857, the Day Spring, okay? Which bettered at Onitsha under OBI Akazua, okay? Just to fast track, between 1863 and 1888, the colonial government or the colonialists extracted at least four treaties, there are a few more, but 4 major treaties from Ndi Onitsha, our traditional rulers, on the suppression of slave trade, on the prevention of human sacrifice, on the opening and encouraging of legitimate trade, on the protection of Christian missionaries, and on the cession of title. They took our land, we just signed and put our thumbprint. And then, finally, on the protection by the colonial government, which is why we became a protector. We became part of the protectorate. As we're getting the treaties from us, they're doing the same in Asaba, doing the same in Otmanam, doing the same in all the other communities. Now, see? Whilst the colonialists were doing their own bit, trying to browbeat us and subjugate us, the Christians were also spreading Christianity. The CMS mission, I said, arrived in 1857 on the Day Spring. Ajayi Crowther, J.C. Taylor, and Simon Jonas. Ajayi Crowther was Yoruba, J.C. Taylor and Simon Jonas Bundi Igbo, slaves that were saved from the slave ships, taken to Sierra Leone, educated, and then they became missionaries and they came. And of course, they settled in Onitsha. Onitsha became the base for the Anglican CMS mission to spread Christianity up in the north into the Middle Belt, the south to the Niger Delta, east and west, and so on. And Onitsha became the seat. Ajayi Crowther eventually became bishop of what eventually became the whole territory of Nigeria, except Lagos, Ibadan, and Abeokuta, that were under the diocese of Sierra Leone, Freetown, Sierra Leone. So Onitsha became the headquarters of the CMS mission in the whole of Nigeria, under Ajayi Crowther. And following that was C.J. Patterson. Again, Onitsha, Christ Church Onitsha, with their thrones, became the Archbishop of West Africa from Onitsha, ruling the whole of West Africa Anglican Communion. So Onitsha began to acquire status with the church. Of course, many of our people became pioneers, missionaries, including Reverend Yemunam, Bishop Onyabo, and so on. As if by magic, 28 years later, the Catholic mission arrived at Onitsha. Again, made Onitsha their base from where they spread Christianity. Reverend Father Lutz, then Bishop Shanahan, then Bishop Hiri, and so on and so forth. So Onitsha has been fortunate. Because with Christianity came education. So Onitsha people became, again, early beneficiaries of modern education. And of course, behind that also came medical services. But of course, there are backlashes because Christianity now says that polygamy is not a right thing to do. So, if you want to become a Christian, I think you should and marry only one, the first wife, and all of that. And that's created a pushback, from some of our people. A few other things that they were demanding, which by now Tarasi and so on. In Onitsha, the big challenge the Christianity had, one, Ozo Onitsha. We still have issues, but we're in dialogue. See, asking if you can share night no noka. You see, pastor on each of each or sit up and she good night. So it's normalizing. And one of our very ardent Catholics, you know, Ibu Diopa Lulie Nabefa. And he was torn between he was torn between that and his Christianity. He went to the Archbishop, Hiri. Hiri said, so they took a video of Ozo Onisha. I went to Rome and presented it to the Pope. Pope said, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that. So Ozo Onisha goes to, and it's very fundamental to our spiritual beliefs. Okay. The second book equals Nkwanabo, which again we've explained to the church. You see, if you dialogue, you get understanding, and sometimes even our masquerades, you know, cause a problem. Mana Onisha became the foundation, and Onisha has benefited on the back of the Christian schools, particularly the secondary schools, CKC, DMGS, QRC. Entry was very competitive. What happened? Private schools sprang up. New Bethel College, Africa College, Our Ladies High School, Washington Memorial, Etukuku Memorial, Zik Institute, New Era. So many. Onisha now became the Mecca for people who are seeking for secondary education from everywhere. So, Umuaka Jala Onisha, Kandina military, who are military commanders, who are governors of states and everywhere, in the north and everywhere else. Zuko, we can take over Nigeria. So Onisha has benefited, okay? So we come to our culture, Onisha culture. I'm just rushing because I don't want to hold you too long. Onisha culture today and our traditions have four roots. Edo, which is Benin, Igala, Igbo, and then our own self-originated elements of cultural behavior, our norms and practices. Okay. Edo, our rare traditions come from Edo and Igala, mixed Edo and Igala. Okay. Ifulu, Abani, Dupetalo, Asaba. That is very much Edo symbolism, okay, which we have also. Certain other elements, which is Igala. Our spiritual beliefs, our traditional spiritual beliefs, are largely Igala and Igbo. Largely Igala and Igbo. Ndi Onisha, more Afia, more Gonogo, Igala. We know the spiritual symbolism of Mogonogo. Na Saba, Obu, Egugu. Egugu is the equivalent for us. And the interesting thing, now Lagos, well, Eyo, which they call Egugu also, and other Yoruba areas have Eyo. And Eyo in Yoruba land commands the same respect as Egugu na Saba, as Moafia and Onitsha. So there's some connection there. Then our social system is largely Igbo by acculturation. Okay? And then, of course, we have our own self-generated, internally generated elements of our culture and tourism. Then, of course, our governance and jurisprudence is largely Edo. So, Ndi Chiani, okay, Ijan Edo, same titles of Ndi Chiani are repeated or copied it from there. Asaba has some equivalents. Iseluku has some equivalents, and so on and so forth. And the functions of Ndichi are similarly the same. And of course, as we say, culture is never constant. It keeps moving and keeps evolving. Okay. I'll talk about our political system very quickly and our judicial system. The political system, our monarch, Igwe, is at the peak of it. Supported by Ndiche, who we refer to today as the political heads of their various villages, etc. Indichi originally were the warlords to protect our boundaries. Adanuzaya Kita, Ananuzaya by word of mouth, courts and all that. But they're the political heads of their various communities. And we meet together at the Council of Indichi, where we discuss issues of the community under the monarchy, under the monarch. I went to yesterday. We had a 4.5 hours meeting yesterday. That's normal, okay? Today we have 24 Ndiche, but the total number we could have is 52. And those are established positions, established by our ancestors, which I can't even change. I can't add or subtract. If there are vacancies, we fill them in the fullness of time. Okay? And this shade in 3 categories. Ndiume, the Madi C, and each of them looks after 1/6 of Onitsha. They are the first class chiefs. And then, of course, Ndiokwa are the next, and Ndiokwa Reze are the third class. All of us have our duties and so on. On the other side, I went on the Diopa. The Diopa are the spiritual heads of their villages and their communities, etc. So Onyichi Onitsha, his village, is spiritually subject to Diopia. So I don't want to, if Onitsha, Diopa are supplement Onyichi. Moab no more. Diopa. I have to respect him as my Diopa. And I respect him as a Onitsha. Okay. Then other groups, constituent groups, Onitsha Improvement Union will celebrate its centenary next year. Actually, it was due this year. We'll celebrate it early next year. They're 100 years old. Doing what other town unions do. Okay. But it was founded in Lagos, actually, as a welfare organization until they came back home and so on and so forth. Our age-grade societies perform very distinct roles in Onitsha. Depending on their age, the youngest ones do the job of protecting the community. Ajanu batano obodo ofa ka tuli alu malife game. Ajo madu batano obodo ofa ka tuli alu malife game. As we go older, and the older ones then join Ndiche in governance of the community. The Abalanze, the also, some of them are here. Each also is a spiritual anointing. It cannot be an Onitsha, you cannot be Eze Onitsha. So that's the significance of also Onitsha. It's a stepping stone to spirituality, our traditional superiority, to rise to higher levels. They perform their own social functions in Onitsha. Ndị okenye, asị na ichi ọzọ na-egbu ọdụ n'Onitsha. Okenye elui means you can ekwu eziokwu. You will not engage in anything that is not proper, and you provide leadership. That's what it's all about. And then, Onitsha, their primary purpose, they were in charge of the markets. They operated the markets. But also, they look after all our shrines and deities in Onitsha. And they look after the welfare of the women, the governance of the women, the Fanaka. Unfortunately, for over 100 years, I can shiro Omu no Onitsha. Omu bu onisi ndi Igbo Onitsha. She is the leader of the women group. And Omu has almost the same authority as Eze Onitsha, except over the women. She will dress like Eze Onitsha, and in public events, she sits immediately to the left of Eze Onitsha. That is the role of the Omu. We're in dialogue, and someday we'll get it back. Then, of course, the Onitsha Youth Council, I think many of them are here, a very strong group, and their former leader, Honorable Ayamba, has done so well that the Anambra State government appointed him the Commissioner for Youths and he's doing very, very well in that position. So that's our political setup. And the judiciary, we have stages. Okudapata between two people or between two groups. The Diopa of the community is the first level. Then Onyiche of the community is the next level. Then Obi in council sits in a court every Wednesday to adjudicate cases. And most cases are resolved at that level. Any appeal from there now comes to me as the final arbiter and the final ruler. But I can say to you that hardly, I can count number of cases in court to Igbo, and none of them has gone and come back to reverse the decision that the OB of Onitsha, in consultation with the chiefs, has made. That is how we govern ourselves. Actually, in one of the cases that went all the way to the Supreme Court, Justice Mary Odili wrote a very strong note commending the Onitsha traditional judicial system. That if all other communities can do the same, then the workload of cases that go through the courts will reduce, and justice can be delivered faster. Onitsha, I said, the modern times started from the colonial and Christian era, and kept growing. Local governments were formed, the market, administration, etc. The peak, in my own eyes, as a little boy growing up, the 1950s and 1960s were probably the high point of Onitsha as a city. In terms of the sense of industry, other professionals and so on, the expansion of the city, Fege was built, as a brand new planned environment community. I have to confess that as a primary school student, I had Fege on Saturday, Jebue block, alone, and they give us 5 shillings after that. So we started earning money from primary school and so on. So those were the great days. There were cinemas, there were dance bands, there were bars where people go and have a good time. And people worked very hard and so on. And above that, the famous Onitsha market literature that are published, they're written and published within 1 week, Veronica, My Love, etc., etc. Onitsha market literature, which several scholars have done their PhD thesis on Onitsha market literature. The largest collection of those literature is in the Hoover Institution at Stanford University. Okay? So our ancestors created those literature, have to go to Hoover Institution to find out what is there. Now, this is what Chinua Achebe said of Onitsha market literature. So one of the most intriguing questions concerning this literature, why did it happen in Onitsha, has, however, not yet been fully answered, and I suspect will never be. It's a mystery, It is this area which interests me. The esoteric region from which creativity sallies forth at will to manifest itself. It says that Onitsha is the esoteric region from which creativity sallies forth to manifest itself. So all we can do is to speculate that Onitsha is such a phenomenon. This is Chinua Achebe writing about the Onitsha in its glorious days when everything was bustling. The spokesman newspaper was there. Everybody wants to read. Some people read it upside down. But and politics was growing. Education, study centers, bookshops on New Market Road. Black and Maxwell. People who are doing their their intermediate law studies, before they go overseas and so on. That was Onitsha for you. And Christmas time, New Year time, and then when Carnival, from Old Market Road, Obomano, down to Ven Road North, and then back New Market Road. Fantastic. Okay? And this is what the way Onitsha had been described in those days, Onitsha of yore. He said it is remarkable for its almost mythological evocation of local history and belief. Alison Anderson, and then J.M.G. Leclerc won the Nobel Prize in 2008, and he wrote a biographical novel titled Onitsha. How did the Frenchman get to Onitsha? His father was working in CFAO Onitsha, and he came as a young man, and what he saw eventually converted into a novel. And he described Onitsha. He said the Onitsha indigene places high value on honor, decency, and amity. Leclerc. And then my friend Hank Eso, who is a newspaper columnist, said that those who knew Onitsha of yore, around 1960s, cannot forget its hidden allure, its mercantile exuberance, and unfeigned charm. Say, like Venice, Lagos, Las Palmas, New Orleans, or Mumbai, Onitsha had spirit and had gravitas. It had culture. Just as it had its seamy side and historical niche. These are the descriptions of Onitsha. When Onitsha was in its glory, Asaba was similar. And we had the ferry that crossed between. Crossing the ferry itself was an experience on its own. And all of that. And Onitsha and Asaba were linked. They were growing side by side. Okay? Then came the Civil War. And everything changed. The Civil War changed everything. Destruction. Physical destruction, but probably more damaging was the psychological destruction the Onitsha felt. Other communities, the Anambra State, the southeast, Asaba was badly damaged. We all suffered the same thing. Okay, that's the turnaround. The same Hanke Shaw came back as we are in Onitsha. So after the Civil War, see, Onitsha of yore was a fun place to be. However, much has changed now. Onitsha has lost its groove. From gravitas, it's lost its groove. Verve and much of its history. Onitsha remains, as ever, the sardonic city of drudge and enterprise, that so much effort yields little in recompense, and quality of life only conveys the infinite mockery and paradox of this sometimes feral city. Still, Onitsha remains untranslatable and unreplicatable. You must visit to experience it. So if I go. So where do we go from there? How do we re-engineer and reposition and restore Onitsha? I came to the throne in 2002, Photo Budosuwedi, and I defined my philosophy for governance, traditional governance of Onitsha, as peace and reconciliation based on truth and transparency as foundation for sustainable development. We have to be transparent, and we have to reconcile. It's important that we must reconcile. We've been working on it for all this time. And 2017, we've had several efforts, study groups, etc., etc. 2017, we set up what we call taking Onitsha to the next level. We had 15 study groups to study all aspects of Onitsha and come up with recommendations and so on. And then after 1 year, we got recommendations. We agreed on how to start the low-lying fruits that we can harvest. Then COVID came. A setback initially, but COVID got us thinking also, what after COVID? Because COVID revealed all social engagement on Onitsha. No marriages, no funerals, no title taking, and all of that. We realized how interconnected our local economy is to one another. If there's no ceremony, Ndine have no job. Ndine canopy have no job. Ndine lemaya have no job. Ndine achafele have no job. Photographers and so on. And how do they restart after COVID? Some of them are so beaten down, they couldn't restart again. So we started immediately, even during the COVID, to begin to think of post-COVID. Economic empowerment program, post-COVID. I had a couple of studies, and this is what I said. Setting up the study group. That we need to support the struggling and budding entrepreneurs in our domain in weathering the post-COVID-19 economic and social challenges. That is the target that we set. Then, when the study was over, they will set up what we call the Onitsha Advancement Foundation. And I said again, is to create and facilitate the development of programs and services that will foster a changed mindset, a participatory action, and empowerment in the lives of Ndi Onitsha Donidu and the community they serve. Okay. So we've been at it all along. We made a lot of progress and all that. On Sunday, we had our quarterly town hall meeting where Ndi Onitsha, wherever you are connected. 4 hours. We had people from 10 countries, Ndi Onitsha, connecting, where we discuss all these issues and map out the way forward. And then Onitsha Advancement Foundation is the platform for our development. We have 2 registered, it's registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, with 2 standalone institutions on entrepreneurship development and leadership. The other one on computer, IT development. Okay? We want to make Onitsha a hub for IT development. The third one, which has not come into place, is the finance, microfinance institution to fund these young entrepreneurs. We've got a cooperative program, which has been initially very successful, but we're wobbling right now. We're looking at it. We have a health and well-being program where we manage our health, educational program, all of this, even our internal security. We have our own vigilante group, not the AVG of the government, our own internal vigilante group to service our people. So challenges. Now, most of these programs, the health and educational program, apply to any child in Onitsha, benefits from our educational program, wherever it comes from. The health program, if you walk in, we have a walk-in health center. You can just walk in as a nurse there. We will attend to you and can call a doctor and all of that available. But there's a bigger Onitsha cosmopolitan city now that has grown around, that has merged even with Obosi, with Mpo, with Ogidi and all of that. Those ones present a totally different challenge. Okay? Population is growing, youth unemployment, the transient population Onitsha becomes a repository. But they sleep rough. Okay? It's terrible. Okay? The infrastructure has not grown. Infrastructure has not grown. You probably see some roads that were built in the colonial times and so on and so forth. Inadequate and non-existent infrastructure, crime within, and Kinesia Bata is there. Of course, environmental pollution, noise pollution, air pollution. Onitsha generates the largest IGR in the state, and I think gets next to nothing. All the markets, the tax collected, we don't get money reinvested. And so those people who've been on Onitsha, and the Onitsha, and the majority now on the Onitsha, who contribute to that IGR, don't get the benefit of the IGR. Roads, where they live, and so on and so forth. That is the situation that we face. But then Onitsha, being what it is in the eyes of international organizations, especially the UN Habitat. So in 2009, UN Habitat did a study, a structure plan for Onitsha and satellite towns to remap and redesign Onitsha. Residential areas, industrial areas, etc. Onitsha now is the cosmopolitan, which should include the satellite communities, Ubosi, Bo, Ugidi, Nkwele-Zunaka, Nsugbe, etc. They did that and presented to our state government nothing. In 2010, at the Shanghai exhibition, Onitsha was designated one of the five fastest growing cities in the world, but with inadequate infrastructure, housing, roads, water supply, etc. And in 2012, UN Habitat came back again to do an urban profile report. First of all was the mapping up. The second time was how to implement. And then, of course, nothing has happened. And in 2016, the World Health Organization dropped the bomb and described Onitsha as the most polluted city in the whole world. Air pollution, 2016. So, Kefe Gemezi Onitsha, agarapia ko nani yotua, ochukwe. Okay, so we have to continue to advocate. My proposal, which I had submitted to the previous government, was to set up an Onitsha Metropolitan Development Authority, and empower it to take charge. Either you do Onitsha, Greater Onitsha, or you can even do Onitsha. Onitsha should be alone. Oka, Newi should be development authorities and so on. So it's been a long story, but I'm now at the conclusion, thankfully. If you read the main lecture, there are several issues that are there that I don't have the answer to. But I flag them, I give my own opinion when it comes to. But there are basically 4 areas that I want to I want to draw attention to in my conclusion. 1, it's important to establish the linkage between Igbo, Yoruba, Edo, and the other language groups. If you go back to that internal migration where we all took off from and then broke up, if that is true. But the truth of the matter that linguistic experts draw a connection between these people. If you don't come together, they also will defeat you. I don't want to say much more about that because it becomes the headline. It's very, very important that I can buy any bad relationships in the past, maybe we can fix it and mend it, knowing that okay. Eluwa's book, which is called Adonidu. That book is 700 pages long, and it made several claims about the history of Igbo, which has not received scholarly attention to authenticate it or otherwise. And it claimed there was a great empire called Adonidu that ended up, that Ile-Ife was the capital of that empire. And the Igbo were the dominant people, Igbo Nachi, Ile-Ife, Adonidu, until the migration. We ought to authenticate it because It gives a new perspective to our relationships and who we are and where we came from. Third, Chima, from all indications, Chima bro Onitsha, no Munai no na Nioma, Chima na all of the southeast. Chima na Yoruba land, okay? And again, you see, we can build up relationships and bonds and figure out how we got to where we did and all of that. And then, of course, finally, the government, I've mentioned already, to pay attention to the re-engineering of the Onitsha metropolitan area is very, very important. Onitsha is the biggest city in Anambra State. You can't wish it away. And if you keep drawing IGR, you don't reinvest. It's like milking a cow without feeding the cow will die. Okay, so that's my fourth recommendation. And finally, I want to Center for Repository, Igbo Repository. We talk about digital library, etc., the library. I want to announce for a start that Chimede Museum, which we're building in Onitsha, has taken a step to digitize the entire academic and scholarly collection of Professor Richard Henderson and his wife, Helen Henderson. They are both social anthropologists, and all their academic life was devoted to the study of Onitsha. So they have manuscripts, they have scholarly papers, they have newspaper cuttings, they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photographs of Onitsha that don't exist anymore. Video recordings, traditional music, Egu Ayaka, and such things. They recorded everything there in his house, his library in Tucson, Arizona. I go there once a year, and we've been recording, we've been digitizing all of this. You know, it's cost a lot of money, but we've preserved Onitsha. And the beauty of digitization is you can replicate. So, VC, a copy of the Henderson digital material will be presented to the Center for Igbo Repository as a start. Richard Henderson is about 93 years old, and he still operates his website on Onitsha, amightytree.org. amightytree.org. You go there, the treasure of information on Onitsha. And then, of course, we'll put together a collection of books on Onitsha by different authors and present to the library also. One of them is a book edited by Professor Kirun Zegu. Scholarly essays by different people. But the beauty of it for me is that it has close to 500 bibliographical references on Onitsha and Igbo. Bibliography, 500 items of bibliography. It's a treasure trove. All of that will come there. And finally, gratitude. This lecture, I take responsibility. Whatever I said, I take responsibility. But I benefited a lot from two people who are very close friends, or who are academics, whose scholarly comments helped to enhance the quality of the lecture. As I said, the lecture is about 61 pages long. Professor P.J. Eze of University of Nigeria, Department of Anthropology, past president of the Anthropological Association of African Anthropological Association, is a good friend. And then, of course, Professor Jerry Shukokulu, who is here. Jerry, get up. Yeah. they're my friends and they've helped me a lot. PJ was assigned to some assignment by the Federal Ministry of Education, so he couldn't be here. So that's it. By na ekene kan ekene amasi ndị Igbo malu no unu. Know thyself. If you know thyself, onye ukwu efe na abụrụ eziokwu anyazea. If you don't know ourselves, if people will take it. You see, that's very, very important.
Please may we rise to appreciate this Royal Majesty.
Igbo bụ mgbọrọgwụ Nigeria. Igbo bụ enyi onye m ka mma gị na ndị Igbo na-enwere ife. Obi Alfred Achebe n'ọkwa onye Igbo ka ọ bụ. N'ọnwale obodo Igbo ụtala ifulu onye Igbo ezi onye m kwalụ na-adọ.
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. Honestly, I never knew that Abogidi still, has the strength like this to stand for over 1 hour to talk to us. This is a special grace. Please may we put our hands together for him again. Thank you so much, Your Royal Majesty. I think I can go home with something today. Thank you again and again. We'll take the remarks and we're going to start with the remarks by one of the fathers of the day, royal fathers of the day for that matter. OB Professor Epiphany Chibogo Azinge, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the 14th Asaba of Asaba.
Asaba ekele ngio, ekele, Professor Epiphany, Onoga Delima. Asaba ekele ngio, ekele.
Your Excellency, the chairman of this occasion, other excellencies here represented, Mr. Vice Chancellor, let me in a special way acknowledge His Royal Majesty, the OB of Onitsha, Abogidi Igwe, other Royal Majesties in attendance, invited guests, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I bring you good tidings from Asaba. Asaba that is very, very close to Onitsha, on the other side of the divide. Asaba that is the capital of the Delta State. Asaba that was once the capital of Nigeria in the days of the Royal Niger Company. Asaba that is today the fastest growing capital city, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa south of the Sahara. I bring you good tidings from Asaba. Firstly, let me commend the university for conceptualizing this idea and also institutionalizing the World Igbo Center and Repository. Let me in a special way also mention that I also want to commend the university for establishing the annual Igbo Achebe lecture series. In the same vein, I congratulate His Royal Majesty Igbo Achebe for being a worthy beneficiary of this honor. More significantly, Your Royal Majesty, I applaud you for this well-researched and thought-provoking lecture, particularly tracing linkages of different parts of Igbo land. Many issues have been raised in the lecture, and I want to address them seriatim. Your Royal Majesty, I'm still worried that 7,000 years after, still a lot of hypotheses on Igbo history. A lot of hypotheses on Igbo history. I believe the time has come to resolve all this and to establish the truism of Igbo history. Perhaps that will be the beginning, as ably demonstrated in your lecture, that it will now go into the archives and form the beginning of this resolution that I've talked about. Your Royal Majesty, the lecture have highlighted the origin of Onitsha people and their linkages from Benin. It has also touched on the arrival of Christian missionaries to Onitsha and from there to Asaba. Indeed, Asaba Anglican Communion is celebrating 150 years of activity this year. So certainly it will be longer in Onitsha since they came over from Onitsha to Asaba. Your Royal Majesty, no doubt, your lecture grandly demonstrated the culture, the life of the people of Onitsha, how you resolve your disputes. Onitsha as a commercial nerve center, the urbanization and the cosmopolitan outlook of Onitsha. Your masquerades and title taking amongst so many others. I believe that will be a researcher's delight because you captured succinctly almost every facet of the people of Onitsha and their lifestyle. But Your Royal Majesty, there are highs, as you clearly articulated, and lows as well of Onitsha. I listened attentively to see whether Your Royal Majesty will address either in depth or in passing the Ogwa O issue. But I believe Your Majesty cleverly avoided that, whether it is Onitsha Wobosi or Obosi Onitsha, that is yet to be resolved. Your Majesty, the laws also include how Onitsha people allow the high-rise buildings in Onitsha, the defacement of the architectural culture, and the takeover of their land by supposedly non-indigens. I believe that that was when Onitsha lost it all. The people of Onitsha did not rise to the occasion at that point in time to regulate the way and manner non-indigens take over their land and to find a way of restricting to a very large extent the laws governing the takeover or the purchase of land in Onitsha. Part of the laws will also include, of course, the drug nature taking place in Onitsha at this point in time and the massive adulteration of drinks in Onitsha environment. For Your Royal Majesty, you've asked the question, how do we restore Onitsha? I believe this question can best be answered by Onitsha people. For me, it would appear that so much has gone wrong But I know that from within the reservoir of knowledge and the resources available to Onitsha people, you stand a chance to restore Onitsha to its past glory and dignity. Your Royal Majesty, I was waiting for you to draw the link between Asaba and Onitsha. Perhaps that's why you invited me. But I didn't hear it. Before the war, there were a lot of intermarriages between Asaba and Onitsha people. Indeed, our people were questioning one another. That used to be the saying of our people. Your Majesty was silent on that. Of course, Your Majesty did not also dwell on the arrival of Mungo Park and the Landa brothers, those who came from afar to discover a people that have been living in a place for centuries. These are some of the fallacies of history, but we keep accommodating them. Asaba people rely solely on Onitsha market for sourcing of goods, and we still do. The only challenge we have is that we don't come to Onitsha market again on Mondays because of sick at home. We conceived the idea, and we are pushing that idea of the prospects of dredging the river Niger. And that will make Onitsha a hub for economic activity. That will also flow into Asaba. On our own, we are pushing this idea through the Inland Waterways Authority in Abuja. And no doubt, if we succeed from the Asaba end, definitely Onitsha will stand to benefit. On the whole, I say that a befitting maiden lecture from a monarch scholar and corporate guru. I will urge all of us to read this lecture again and digest this appropriately. I congratulate you, Your Majesty. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Please, another round of applause for him. That was another good one from His Royal Majesty. Of course, we saw a meticulous balance of professorial credentials and traditional paraphernalia, all combined in just one man. We salute you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, we want to move faster now because we must have to end at the appropriate time. But we need to have some remarks. I call it remarks, just few words, please, so that we can go for the foundation laying ceremony. Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've just been directed that we move on as we have it here on the program. So on this note, I would like to invite His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Enugu State, Dr. Peter Mba, ably represented by the Honorable Commissioner for Water Resources, Enugu State. Your Excellency.
Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Abia State, who is the chairman of this occasion, Vice Chancellor, of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. His Royal Majesty, the OBI of Onitsha, our celebrant. The Asaba of Asaba, the Chairman of Traditional Rulers Council, Southeastern Nigeria, Royal Fathers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations from His Excellency Dr. Peter Mba, the Executive Governor of Enugu State, to the OBI of Onitsha on this very first and maiden series of this lecture. While I saw my name on the manifest to represent His Excellency, what first came to my mind was I likened NNAEMEKA ACHEBE with the motto of the University of Nigeria, restoring the dignity of man. This man, Igwe Alfred NNAEMEKA ACHEBE, is an epitome of intelligence. He has brought swag to the traditional institution. His humility, his stature, as put by Professor Ono. You know, when I read your speech too, you said that this is an institution of man. So that was when my conscience was justified. You well situated him. What can we say? Well, thank you, the University, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, for this maiden edition. And we do hope and confident that going forward, this is the initial one, that all that has been said here will be documented across all the divides within Igbo nation. It's very important. Just like the lecturer said, that if you don't write your own history, your enemies will put it down for you. I mean, it's so disheartening that our language is diminishing, that we don't speak our language to our children. It's a challenge, and then the history of yesterday juxtaposed to today and then the future. You can imagine. But I'm confident that the personality of His Royal Majesty NNAEMEKA ACHEBE, on whom this foundation has been laid, is going to stand the test of time. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Nnamdi Azikiwe University. And thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. May God bless you. Still in the next 1 minute, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite His Excellency, the former Executive Governor of Anambra State, Mr. Peter Obi, ably represented by the former Honorable Commissioner for Economic Planning and the first female Chief of Staff, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
One minute. Your Excellency, Your Majesty, the OBI of Onitsha, and the chairman of the occasion, please let me stand on the protocol already very brilliantly established. I bring you greetings from His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi. I'm very happy to be here, though I'm very sad that I'm represented. I should have accompanied him here. The man being celebrated today, Abogidi, is a man very much loved by Peter Obi. What Abogidi said about Onitsha, the UN Habitat Connection, was begun under Peter Obi, and he followed it up, maybe not to the end. So he brings you greetings, he congratulates you, and he's very happy that Onitsha revival and everything and Igbo culture are being brought to the academic domain. He's confident that now that a center is being established here to look at the Igbo nation and Onitsha in particular for today, that the academia will do research and will discover things that will strengthen the Igbo nation. As we know, Peter Obi loves education. He has shown it in various ways. And I'm sure he will love what is happening here. And I'm sure he will support it in whatever way he can. Thank you and congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, the Vice Chancellor and all stakeholders. And may God bless Anambra State, bless the Igbo nation, and bless Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So sorry, we are just trying to be fast enough. That's why we are giving 1 minute. Please, the representative of the special guest of honor, Dr. Moji of the Zenith Bank, please. 1 minute, please.
His Majesties, the Obogidi himself, His Excellencies here and represented by the Deputy Governor and the Commissioners, and all our royal fathers, thank you all. And all the protocols duly observed. Here, I'm representing our Group Managing Director, Dame, Dr. Adoru Moji, the Group Managing Director of Zenith Bank PLC and Zenith Bank Group. Zenith Bank has always been very, very interested in whatever happens in our environment in this nation. And the university also has been there to our hearts. And this particular project is also one that Zenith Bank will support in our own way. So I believe that the management and the GMD would, in due course, fully support this cause. Once more, I want to say thank you, and may God bless all of us and the Igbo race.
Thank you very much. Please, we want to shut down now. Time is no longer on our side. And on this note, I would like to invite the chairman of today's occasion to do the closing remarks so that we can close officially. Thank you very much. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. I really want to use this opportunity to thank everyone who took out their time in making sure this very event comes out very successful. And at the same time, for our guests here present, I really want to thank everyone on behalf of the Executive Governor, Dr. Alex Choma Oti, OFR, who happens to be the chairman of this very occasion. Ndeje, you're welcome. And also the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My message is just so simple. Ndị Igbo si ntị na-anụ n'ihe anaghị aha ka ebegele. That means the ear that hears is never as big as a basin. We've all heard about our father here, the Obi of Furniture, told us, has explained to us our history and where we're from and concerning our migration. And I believe this very maiden edition, going forward, we'll be able to collaborate properly in saying that this very huge step that has been taken today continues to live long. My final prayer here is we all return back to our respective homes better than the way we came here. May God bless the Igbo race, may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Please may I invite Reverend Father Greg Eke to lead us in the closing prayer, after which we take the national anthem, we take the university song, and then the national anthem. Thank you very much. Father Eke, please. Please may we rise.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. God our Father, we thank you for the life you have given us. We thank you for the gift of today. We thank you for the Igbo nation, for enriching us with the various cultures and our history. The work we have started today, it is by your grace. We ask that you continue to lead us, that what we have begun today will go a long way in enhancing our history, understanding ourselves, and progressing according to your will. As we are about to leave, guide us to our various destinations, protect our guests. May we all go back rejoicing, more enriched by the lectures we have had. At the end of the day, may your name be glorified, may you continue to be sustained, and at the end of our stay here on earth, may we all gather together once again in your eternal home in heaven through Christ our Lord. The Lord be with you. May the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit come down on you and remain with you forever. Peace be with you all.
The university song.